Now we would understand the Nyāya-Vaiśeṣika theory of causation in much more depth. So, Asatkāryavāda is their philosophy that the effect is genuinely new, because Nyāya-Vaiśeṣika accepts that Dravya, Guna, Karma, Samanya and Vishesh are real and atoms are eternal, but their collocations change. About causation, they say that the effect is not pre-existent in the cause, and this is called Asatkāryavāda. That, when clay becomes a pot, the pot did not exist earlier. It produced for the first time now. And how does that happen? Through a suitable collocation of causes. So what is produced was previously non-existent or asat. So this is directly in at odds with the Samkhya philosophy of Satkaryavad. Satkaryavad is what exists in the effect must have already existed in the cause, and that nothing absolutely new can arise. And then Nyāya-Vaiśeṣika nuance is that they are not saying that anything non-existent whatsoever can come to be, right? It's not that if what seems very odd to be produced, something which cannot be produced can be produced through a Satkarva. They simply say that the particular effect as such did not exist before its production, and when it is produced it is a new real. So they are talking about things that are produced. It shouldn't be stretched to an illogical conclusion that anything can be produced, right? Whatever is produced has been produced already, and about that they are explaining that that particular thing did not exist earlier. And it rejects mysterious causal power. So, it doesn't agree with Mimamsa as well. So the Mimamsakas had argued that in each cause there was an unseen power or Shakti that produces the effect. And this power is not observable, but that power must be assumed. But the Nyāya-Vaiśeṣika objects that this transcendental power is neither observed nor is it legitimately inferred. And we have no need to postulate such. We can observe causation via observable operations, and we can explain causation via regular succession between cause and effect. So for Nyāya-Vaiśeṣika, causal relation requires an invariable and unconditional antecedent, that is, anyatha siddhi samshay niyata purva vritti. It is invariable and unconditional antecedent. Invariable is whenever cause is present, effect follows. And unconditional, it should not be a mere co-traveler, but something on whose presence the effect truly is, truly depends. So invariable and unconditional, these are the two criteria for a cause and effect relation to exist. So they try to separate genuine causes from mere accompanying conditions. Let's say for an effect like a pot to be produced from clay. Clay, potter, wheel, stick, water, a particular place and time. So these are present for a pot to take a pot to be effected. Also, incidental things like potter's shirt, sound of wheel, or air transmitting that sound, or and potter's father are also present. So, how to distinguish the true cause then? So, Nyāya-Vaiśeṣika says that true cause must be an unconditional, invariable antecedent in the production of that effect. Anything which is collateral, superfluous, or inert is not a cause. For instance, how do we say that the stick's texture or stick's color or sound produced is not a cause? Because these are not unconditional antecedents of the pot. They do not contribute to potness. Therefore, they are not causes. The potter's father is an antecedent cause of the potter's accident. Potter's existence. Uh, so, but these are not an antecedent of the pot in any direct causal way. So the potter's father also we can exclude. He's not a antecedent. He's a cause for the potter, that is agreed, but not an accident cause of the potter, of the pot in any direct or casual way. So, co-effects of a cause may themselves be invariable antecedents of some other effect, but they are not unconditional in producing this pot and therefore must be separated out for instance, potter's father. So, Nyāya-Vaiśeṣika is effectively doing, some, it is testing apart what is essential for a particular effect from what is accidental. So this type of discussion was also done back in the Aristotelian times. So you can see some sort of great minds think alike types of situation. Then we have causation as kinetic expenditure of energy. So author explains that Nyaya-Vaiśeṣika view, all causation, the authors from whoever we have, these are have been taken over a period of time. This is sort of like synthesis. So all the authors, they view causation as a case of energy expenditure, parispand, which is spandan, we know it's the motion. So parispand is the molecular motion, and every effect is the sum or resultant of the operations of the different causal conditions, all of which are kinetic in nature. So it explains causation through kinetic motions, and they reject the Sankhya's theory of an invisible Shakti or productive power which is separate from physical processes. So, an invisible Shakti is rejected here. Any metaphysical transcendental efficiency that cannot be reduced to operations of motions and impact in matter, and Adrisht and Ishvara are general conditions, of course. So, any metaphysical transcendental efficiency that cannot be reduced to operations of motion and impact in matter, they reject. So, and then we have general and specific causes. So, Sadharan Karan, which are the general causes, space, time, Ishvara's will, and Adrisht. And in Asadharan Karan, we have specific conditions that determine this effect. So, in the previous analogy, that clay, potter, wheel, stick, these are the asadharan current. So they acknowledge metaphysical and moral conditions as background causes, but they still insist that the mechanism itself is physical and analyzable. The three main kinds of causes are samavai karan, which is the material cause, asamavai karan, which is the non-material inherential cause, and nimitta karan, which is the efficient and accessory cause. So, what is samavai karan? Samavai karan is the material cause, and that whose parts remain inseparably present in the effect via the samavai. For instance, clay. Clay is the samavai karan of a clay pot, right? So it is material, it is always inseparably present in the clay pot, the clay. So, and the because the clay atoms continue to be in the pot, and pot is nothing but clay, and pot is nothing but clay arranged in a new configuration. So, samavai, that which stands in samavaya with the effect. And then we have asamavai karan, which is the cause of the characteristic via the material cause. This is more subtle. Asamvai Karan is that which inhabits the material cause whose presence determines a characteristic in the effect, right? So it is there in the material cause, and that uh, decides some of the characteristic of the effect. For instance, black color of the clay. It's there, it's a gun of the clay, and it is the asamvai Karan of the black color of the pot. So color is a gun in the clay. It is a samvai between clay and color, and that color via the that color via the clay, it produces the color of the pot. So any gun or samanya which exists in the material cause and determines a corresponding feature in the effect is called an asamavai karan. Then we have Nimitt and Sahkari, which are the efficient and accessory causes. So Nimitt Karan is the efficient cause, it's the agent, and Sahkari Karan are the accessory causes that assist the production. For a pot, the potter is the Nimitt Karan because he is the agent, efficient agent, and wheel, stick, water, etc. are the Sahkari because these have assisted in the production. And these do not remain in some way with the plot, right? With the pot, some way, in some way relation, only the clay is there. They are external operations that bring the material and they bring the material together. And the gunas in the cause produce the gunas in the effect. The blackness of the clay produces the blackness of the pot. Hardness of clay produces hardness of the pot. And but how do you explain the emergence of new gunas then? So when heat intervenes, new gunas may arise. For instance, red hot color of the pot was not present in the original clay, but it is there in the pot. The measure or pariman of dyads and triads, which are the larger atomic clusters, they are not caused by the parimanas of the individual atoms, but they are caused by the number. So we had seen that in the section on pariman. Then we have a discussion on Pralaya and Sṛṣṭi, which are dissolution and creation respectively. So Pralaya is the cosmic dissolution. All Hindu systems except Mimamsa accept Pralaya. As per the Nyāya-Vaiśeṣiks, Ishwar desired to grant rest to living beings, and because he desires to grant rest, he decides to bring about dissolution. At the same time, the Adrist force stored in all souls and elements ceases to operate. That is called Shakti Pratibandh, which is blocking of power. And what happens because the Adrist ceases to operate? No new bodies, senses, or cross products arise, and existing compounds disintegrate. First, all the earth bodies break back to atomic earth, then to water, then fire, then air. So, what we are left is the disintegrated atoms of the four elements, and then the soul, each associated with their dharma, adharma, and samskar. But everything is there in the quiescent or inanimate state. So after all this disintegration, everything in such a suspended inanimate state. But in themselves, the souls and the atoms are not lifeless and unconscious. They become uh, so. Pardon me. Uh, the souls in themselves are lifeless and unconscious, but they become knowers only when they are connected with the body, senses, and the manas. So, although they are inanimate, but and they are lifeless and unconscious, they become knowers only when they are connected with the body, senses, and manas. So, in Pralay, because they are not connected with the body, senses, manas, so all souls are inactive and knowledgeless. And then the cycle turns again. By the will of Ishwar and operation of Adrast, atoms begin combining into bodies and souls. Body and worlds. And souls driven by the past karma obtain appropriate bodies and the world resumes. So it is to be noted that Pralaya and Sṛṣṭi don't appear in the original sutras. They're found in later Nyāya-Vaiśeṣika works, which adopted the wider cosmology shared by the most Hindu systems.